We committed a cardinal sin. We did a software change in tandem with a hardware change.
Oh, no.
Yeah, doing a hardware change with a software change, you generally want to avoid because the likelihood of something breaking when you do a major release is very high.
There was an exception that was thrown, and we've never encountered it. And we're like, what do we even do?
Oh, it was like a threading issue. Ultimately, we determined
Maximum number of threads or something.
it was a concurrency issue.
Yeah,
right?
It's concurrency. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's concurrency. It used way too many threads, and it's just like, what happened? We don't even...
Yeah, and we asked ChatGPT, and it's like, it could be an OS issue, it could be a hardware issue. And we don't have this documented very well, but I knew that within the last 30 days, we had upgraded our Azure infrastructure. We went to...
we shifted the database server. We shifted...
It was the application server in particular that caught my attention because that's where the threads were running for this piece of code.
Oh, yeah.
But Azure, they monetarily incentivize you to upgrade to like beta hardware. There was a steep discount on the price for the V3 hardware. The V3's I wouldn't call it beta. It's been out for a while. We were on V2, and generally these upgrades are pretty safe.
Mm-hmm.
But we upgraded to the version 3 hardware. We got like a 30% discount, which adds up.
And again, we're in a small business, so I mean, like,
one of those
dollars matter.
Yeah, one of those things where it's like, yeah, let's do it. It's a no-brainer. We had been running that hardware on our lower environments for a period of time, a couple months. But yeah, we ultimately chalked it up to the new hardware. There was something wrong with that node that we were given on that new hardware. We restarted that node, everything was fine.
Yeah.
But had I not remembered that we did that, we didn't really have an effective change management where you could go back as a developer and say, what were the recent hardware changes you made?
Right. Or just what were the recent to this environment in general? Like, was it software release? Was it hardware change? Was it data import? Because sometimes when you import a large amount of data into a database, it doesn't re-index right away.
Yeah.
So all of your queries are going to underperform. So when SQL executes, it creates a query plan to figure out what's the optimal way to retrieve the data. And sometimes when you import a ton of data, it doesn't do that right away.
The query plans aren't.
They're not. The statistics aren't updated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then it provides an inefficient query, and then that could also tank your system.
Yeah. And thinking back to that release, we committed a cardinal sin in that release, and it made it a little bit difficult to troubleshoot. We did a software change in tandem with a hardware change.
Oh, no.
Yeah, cardinal sin, and we know now not to do that because it makes troubleshooting change. Like,
I'm gonna make the slight jerk comment. We should have. We've known this before.
I know. It's funny because like we say we're not going to do it, but we had pushed that software release back so far. We didn't have a choice.
Right. And I think the hardware release, I don't think we had a choice on that one either, right?
Well, there were some cost-saving initiatives we were working towards. We had pushed both back so far that we had to do it. Yeah. But if I could go back in time, would I at least separate them out by a day? Probably.
Yeah.
Do as I say and not as I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that doing a hardware change with a software change, you generally want to avoid because the likelihood of something breaking when you do a major release is very high. And when you separate them out, you can very easily tell which change caused the issue.
Yeah. And I think that's something worth pointing out too, is like, even for, bigger corporations, smaller, whatever it is, like you do a release, there's usually going to be a triage team the next day waiting for issues. Like, because something's always going to happen that you did not expect.
Yeah, in the case of us, it was we didn't simulate 10 million
right.
users.
Yeah, there's a certain set of load that we didn't try.
Yeah.